Alright, welcome back to the GT Industries channel, everybody. It's been a while since our last video. I want to start off this video by saying thank you to all of our subscribers and thank you for all the support and the engagement on our previous videos. As stated before, we are a small channel dedicated to the exploration, empowerment, and teachings of all things techie. So, that means we do everything from computers to cars to anything in between. If you're looking for a tech channel, this is the one. We don't post regularly or often, but when we do, it's typically pretty cool stuff in our opinion. You can make your own opinion though on that and let us know in the comments if you like what we're putting out. In this video, we'll be showing you the process for disabling the Imobilizer system on a 2006 Volkswagen Jetta 1.9 liter TDI turbo diesel injected sedan. This video is strictly for educational purposes only. I want to also note before we start that this video is filmed directly post-move after myself and my wife moved into a new house. It's our first house that we own, which is awesome, but please be patient as none of our filming equipment, lighting, mics, or anything else has been set up. So I do apologize for any bad lighting or shakiness. I also apologize for any heavy breathing or voice cracks, as I'm also getting over a sinus infection in several sections of this video. With all that being said, this video will not be of great quality, but it will still be of great educational value. Another thing I want to note is that during this video, you'll hear me mention things about the links being in the description of the video. This is not the case. We now have a website with all our projects on it, and those project pages will have all the links that you will need for each project. We'll get into more of that in more detail later. This video is for educational purpose only. Do not use this information for illegal activities. Again, this is educational purposes only. We, meaning GT Industries, its subsidiaries, partners, employees, contractors, etc., do not make any guarantees to the information provided in this video, and the aforementioned names and parties cannot be held liable for any damages from the use of the information in this video, the files associated with this video, actions depicted in this video, or processes or downloads in this video or linked to by this video. With all that out of the way, let's get started. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the GT Industries channel. Today I'm going to be showing you guys how to do something kind of controversial, I guess you could call it. We are going to take this Volkswagen Jetta. As you can see, it's in rough shape. Bought this at an auction, but it did not come with a key. So I'm going to show you guys the process in which I went through to not only replace the ignition cylinder on this car, but also disable the immobilizer system for it so that I can actually start it. And I've already gone through and done all this, so I'm going to show you guys kind of what that looks like real quick. So I've got it taken apart on the inside here. You can hear the dinger. I've got this key right here. Okay, now this looks like a transponder key. I'll go ahead and pop it open real quick and show you guys that it is not a transponder key though, so give me just a second and I'll pop that open for you before we do this. All right, so I'm in the car now. I've got this key, so I popped the key open. You can see there's no transponder chip in it whatsoever. It's just plastic. There's nothing here. So I'm going to show you guys that this key does in fact start the car. So we're going to go down here. I'm going to take this, we're going to put it in. You'll see it's still the same key, no transponder chip. I'm going to turn the key to the on position. You'll see the glow plug thing goes off. Again, still the same key. All right, and there it goes. Okay, so now it's running. You'll see also there's a flashing car with a key symbol in it, meaning that the key, that's loud and annoying, meaning that the key is not detected, but the vehicle is running. So normally with most of these Volkswagens, when you do this, you can still technically start the car, but it will shut off after a few moments, and you have to deal with that. Now this is an auction vehicle. It's got a bunch of other problems. That's why I'm going ahead and doing it with this one. This is not a car I intend on keeping or selling or anything like that. I'm just using it for demonstration purposes, but I'm going to go ahead, take that key back out. Here's the other half of it, by the way. And I'm just going to lay that back down in the seat. And we're going to pop the hood open on this thing. if I can remember where that's at, it's down here. There we go. All right, come out here. Perfect. All right. And now it's going to look like a mess under here because I've got some stuff taken off. But basically, what we're doing is that computer right there. We're going to take that computer out, and I'm going to show you guys how I did how I went through the process of removing the Imobilizer chip, or rather removing the EEPROM chip, and then reprogramming that to basically disable the Imobilizer. Now, the Imobilizer system is integrated into the ECU of these cars. This is, again, a 2006 Volkswagen Jetta. This is a TDI, so turbo diesel injected, is what TDI stands for, I believe. And this is, I believe, a Mark IV version of this car, if I remember correctly. 06, it might be a Mark V, I don't remember. But it has had some work done to it. I picked this thing up from an auction for like 250 bucks. So I figured this will be a great learning experience for everybody. And hopefully if you have something similar going on. The reason you might want to do this to your car, if it's running or driving or whatever, is oftentimes these keys will, or not these keys, these cars will have issues with the Imobilizer systems where even the keys that do work or that should work just don't. The Imobilizer system breaks somehow, and then you end up having to get a whole new computer or module or whatever, get it reprogrammed. It costs hundreds, if not a couple $1,000s, depending on where you're at and the parts availability and everything. So I got quoted roughly $600 to replace the ignition cylinder, and then another $1,500 to get a ECU that was programmed for this car with the key that I ended up buying. I do have an Imobilizer key for this, or an Imobilizer enabled or chip enabled key, but I'm not using that, obviously. So I'm going to show you guys what I did to do this, and basically all you have to do is get to your ECU in your car, which is under the window cowl. I did have to take out a piece that spans across here and the plastic trim that goes across here, along with the windshield wipers. As you can see, here's one right here. So I took all that stuff off and got down here, then unbolted the ECU and pulled it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and get the ECU out of this thing, and then we'll go inside to the table. Yes, a kitchen table. No, I don't have a workshop, at least not at this house. So I'm gonna take this ECU into the kitchen table, and then I'll show you guys kind of what I did to go from that point to, from the point that it used to be where the Imobilizer was enabled to now where the Imobilizer is not enabled. I did notice earlier in the footage that I was taking a few minutes ago that this is here. This is a battery tender. You can see, well, if I can get it turned around correctly, it's just a standard Everstart Walmart battery tender. Just runs straight over here to these two battery clips. It's just something I put on all the cars that I have that I'm messing with, just so the batteries don't die over time. But yeah, I wanted to clarify that. And I don't know what all this is down here. It's something to do with the injectors, but I believe they're new injectors, I guess, or newer, and that's the wiring they did for them. I'm not entirely sure, but they go down to the fuel injectors, so I'm assuming that's what that is. But there's nothing special about this car that I can tell, at least. There's no aftermarket modifications or anything other than maybe a pipe or so, like this one right here. But I think that's about the only thing other than the coils and whatnot. But I wanted to clarify that that's what that is. It's just a battery tender. So there's nothing special. I'm not doing anything weird with the car or anything. It's just something to keep the battery alive while I go through all this testing. But let's get inside and get the ECU taken apart, and then I'll kind of show you guys what it looks like whenever I get the ECU out of that little cubby, so you guys can see how I go about removing those and getting them out. But there is a reason I took this front section here off. On yours, there's a this gasket here will sit up on top of that. You'll take this gasket off. There's going to be a plate bolted in here. Took that out after I got the cowling and the windshield wipers off, and then that'll give you access to the ECU like you see here. So let's go ahead and get the ECU out, and then I'll show you guys how to disconnect the actual ECU from the vehicle itself. Make sure before you do this, though, that you disconnect the negative terminal of your battery. And also, if you have a battery tender like this, make sure you take that off, because you don't want voltage going through your system when you take the ECU out. If you do that, you could cause some permanent damage to the ECU and other components as well. So make sure you take the battery negative terminal off and any battery tenders, and then, like I said, the plate up here, windshield cowling and all that stuff, and then we'll get the ECU itself unbolted. Well, it's already unbolted in mine, but you'll get yours unbolted. We'll go ahead and pull this out, and then I'll show you guys how to disconnect the ECU. All right, so we've got the ECU out of its little cubby over here. I'm going to show you guys, this is how you remove the clips here. So you'll see that piece I just pushed in right there. You just take that and you pull it out. And as you pull it out, which it's hard to do one-handed, but as you pull it out, you'll see this rack in here kind of move that direction, and the plug will kind of move that direction. Once you have it all the way undone, see if I can do this. See, that moves a little, but we'll get that off. Basically, you just pull that out all the way. It might actually be out all the way. Let me see. No, not quite. This other one is, though. This other one is out all the way. You just push it off, and it comes off like that. Super easy. I'm going to go ahead and do this other one since it requires two hands. But that's all you do is you just pull that out and then push that off as you go. All right, so now I've got the entire ECU assembly off of the vehicle, okay? Now, all you have to do, and I know I said earlier about disconnecting the battery. No, mine is not disconnected because, again, this is a $250 car. I don't really care. But now we have to get this out of this metal tray, which is a lot easier than you might actually think. So you've got one little tab right here, okay? This tab needs to be pried off. So just like that, you can pry it out and it'll stay out, okay? And then you flip it over and you've got these three little connectors or tabs on the bottom right here, here, and here. You just pop those up a little, kind of like you're bending it out, flip it back over, and push the ECU out of the metal tray. And that's it. So now we've got the ECU out, metal tray separated. Keep the metal tray handy. You will want to have that to reinstall. And now we've got the ECU. I did want to mention, while I have the ECU out, this is for these types of ECUs, these 906 ECUs, or not 906, I'm sorry, 16U ECUs. It says it right there, the diesel EDC 16U34. That is the type of ECU it is. It's a EDC 16 based ECU. This process is going to work for these types of ECUs, and I believe that's on Volkswagen, Audi, and BMW vehicles. But again, this is for a Volkswagen, so I do not know about those other ones. I did a very small amount of research and found out that this style of ECU is used in several different brands of vehicles, those including Volkswagen, Audi, and BMW. So this process may work very similarly to the BMWs and Audis of the same era, but I did want to point that out, that it is a EDC 16 ECU. So we'll go ahead, we'll go inside, we'll get this apart, and take a look at the inside of it. All right, so we are in the kitchen now. Sorry for the crappy lighting. I just moved into this house, and I don't have any of my equipment here to be able to show you guys in detail, you know, have all the lights and stuff set up. But there's very few things you're actually going to need for this particular step in the process. All we're doing is we're taking this back cover here off of the ECU, and we're going to do that very simply with a little electronics toolkit with a T15 star bit here. And we're going to take these screws out right here. And no, they're not going to be this easy every time, but all you do is you just take that screw out just like that. There's four of them. There's one right here, one right here, one right here, and one right here. Now, when you do this, don't start prying on the back cover of this, because there is glue all through here. I'm going to go ahead and take the screws off and then pull this cover off, and I'll show you what I'm talking about, and then I'll tell you how to remove that glue. All right, so I've got those screws out, and I'm going to go ahead and just pop this plate up. Now you'll see when you do yours, you've got some thermal adhesive paste over here. I think it's thermal adhesive paste. I don't really know what it is. It could also just be glue. I'm not sure. But all along the edge here, you'll see this silicone material. That is the glue that you have to be careful with when you're prying on this. Now, the way I did this was I used a hot air rework station similar to this. So for those of you who are not familiar with electronics, you will need one of these, not only for this process in the glue, but also to get the EEPROM chip off of the board here in just a second. So all you do is you take this, you turn it on, set it up, and then you carefully heat up the surface around where the glue edge is, when this is on, of course, but you heat up that surface, and then you come in with a pry tool of some kind, and you gently pry between this plate and this lip edge right here. Okay, be careful though, you don't want to stick a screwdriver in here and pry, because if you do that, you're going to be prying on the motherboard. So you want to make sure that you keep it out here along the edge, that way you don't damage anything on your ECU. Again, like stated in the intro, I will not be responsible for any damage to your ECUs. This is strictly for educational purposes only. So don't use this information on a completely fully functioning vehicle that you need to drive every single day, if you intend on doing that, because you may very well screw something up and then you will not have a functioning vehicle. So again, educational purposes only, just like the intro said, but here is how you do that. Basically, you just take those screws out, you heat the edge up, pry off the back, and then you've got this piece over here. Now I'm going to go ahead and get set up, and I'll show you guys where the EEPROM chip is on this board, and I'll show you guys what I did to reprogram it. All right, so we're back again. Okay, we have the hot air rework station set up. Again, I apologize for the lighting. I've got a lamp set up right here, with the light kind of pointed down towards this, so hopefully that will help a little bit. The tools you're going to need for this next process are, you're going to need the hot air rework station. I'll put a link to that in the description. It comes with this set of tweezers, which you'll also want to have, and I believe it came with this. I don't know. It's been a while since I opened it, but some solder, it might come with that as well. If it doesn't, you'll want to get some electronics grade fine wire solder. You can find that on Amazon or anything. I will also put a link to that in the description as well, if I can find one that's comparable to this one. But even your hardware store should have something very similar. So all you do with this specific hot air rework station, at least, is you turn it on. It's automatically, the bottom number is going to be your iron, which is over here, and the top number is going to be your hot air blaster, whatever you want to call this. And this is the part you're going to use. In this particular one model, it doesn't turn on until you lift this up, and then you'll hear that came on. So I'm going to go ahead and put that back down, and it shuts back off. So that is good for safety, obviously. But basically what you're going to do is you're going to come over here to your ECU, and you're going to find this chip right here. With the ECU with the connectors facing away from you, it is right down here in the bottom right-ish corner there, kind of more towards the center than it is the right. But that is your EEPROM chip. I'll zoom in here. You can see it right there. I do want to note that this chip is not the original to this ECU. Now, yours will also not be original to the ECU by the time you're done with this process, because the chip that comes on here is not reprogrammable. You cannot reprogram the chip that comes on this board. Now, you'll see my lack of skills in soldering here. You can see it's kind of messy, but it works. So what you will do is you will take the hot air rework station, and you will simply pick it up, let it warm up. I'm going to run this over my arm until I feel that it's warm, so give me a moment here. Alright, it's warm. You can also see the temperature on the gauge as well. I've got mine set to about 500 degrees or so. And you just wait till it's nice and hot, and then all you do is you simply come in here and you hold it over, not touching. I'll zoom down here. You hold it over, you don't touch the actual chip, okay? And you let it get nice and hot, alright? Once it gets hot, the solder is going to melt around that chip, and then you'll basically just come in here with the tweezers and very carefully grab it by the sides and lift straight up, okay? So don't come in here and try to pull it along the board or push it or anything like that. Just come in with your tweezers and lift straight up. If you try to push or pull, you're going to have to do a lot of excess cleanup work.
After you get the chip itself off, then all you're going to want to do is get some solder wick if you don't have any already, or a solder sucker, which I believe there was one that also came with this kit. I think that's what I ended up using. But you'll get a solder sucker, and you'll just keep heating up the solder that's on the board with the iron. That way you're not frying the board, because if you leave the hot air on it too long, you could end up damaging the traces on the board, and you could also end up damaging other components on the board. So you want to take the hot air away as soon as you get this chip off, and then go back with a solder iron and clean all that up. Now, I will go ahead and put a link in the description to, I believe it was DigiKey that I got the chips from, but I'll put a link in the description for the correct component chip that I used on my particular ECU. You will want to verify that it is the same chip on your ECU as well, and I'll show you guys that in the next part whenever we go to put it in the reader, when we read the chip and then reprogram the new chip to match the old chip. And I'll show you guys kind of what we do with that. So that's how you remove the chip and which one it is. If you are not very good with soldering and you're not very good with electronics, I would highly recommend you not do this. But again, this video is for educational purposes only. So if you're just learning or have a spare ECU or whatever, go for it. It's definitely worth learning how to solder, learning how to remove and reinstall components and stuff like that. Just don't do what some people do and fry the boards. But again, this is educational purposes only, so like I said, don't do it if you're not completely comfortable or need this vehicle or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next part. We're going to assume that you got the chip off, and we'll move on to the next part. I'll show you guys what you do whenever you get the chip off. In the description below, you'll find a link to a device called a CarProg. That is a device that you can use for programming the EEPROM on these chips. So I'll show you guys kind of how to do that, and we'll go from there. Before we go into that though, I did want to mention while we're looking at this, please make note of the direction of this chip. It is directional, so you can't flip it around and install it, because then it won't work. You do need to mark, say, if you look real close here, I have a Sharpie mark. Let me get my tweezers. I have a Sharpie mark right there. Okay, that's my Sharpie mark, and you'll see the orientation of the chip here. In this particular case, my numbers are facing to the right of that Sharpie mark. So I know that where the numbers start, the top left of where the numbers start, is also where that Sharpie mark is, and that's how I lined mine up. Now, if I zoom in close enough, you might be able to see it, you might not. The numbers on that are 95320RP. That's the number you're going to need for the chip type. In my case, it was a 95320 chip. So you'll want to see what number chip you have on yours and make sure that you order the correct chip from DigiKey or wherever it is that you get your chips. But definitely make sure that the orientation is correct on those when you remove it and mark it somehow. Otherwise, you'll have to go through the process of figuring out which pin is which. Also, the direction will matter when we go to program this, because it does have to go into the programmer a certain way. And the programmer that we're going to be using, the CarProg programmer, we are going to be using the onboard, and by that I mean it's a jumper that's made to be reprogram EEPROM chips while they're still on the board. We're going to use that one, but it doesn't actually work while these are on the board. They won't read, and they also won't write while they're on the board. So just make sure you don't try to do that. Otherwise, you could mess something up. So go ahead and take that chip off, mark the direction, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show you how to program it. Okay, so we're here. We've got the CarProg. We've got the, I believe this is the A6 lead. Let me see here. Yes, A6. This is the A6 clip lead that goes to the onboard EEPROM reader clamp. One thing I did want to mention that from that last segment is where I put that Sharpie mark on there. That is not actually pin 1. The solder pad on the opposite side of that, if I can find my tweezers here, I'll show you guys. Sorry for all the shakiness. Right there, that solder pad is where pin 1 is, and if I had a magnifying glass on a magnifying lens, I would show you that right next to that is a little, very tiny little number 1. So if you get down there and you see a very tiny little number 1 on your board somewhere around those before you take that off. That is pin number 1. So make note of that because if you look on this particular clip, you'll see the heat shrink on the very end of all these connectors, if it'll focus, which it won't. But the heat shrink on all those connectors is black, except if you look on the other side, one of them is white. So that is pin number 1. You'll see right here, that heat shrink is white, not black like the rest. That is to indicate that's the pin number 1 position. So I have a spare chip in here already. It is basically as if it were on the board like this. You put it into the clip the same way. So basically just put it with the top of the chip facing towards the spring part of the clamp, and make sure pin number 1 of your chip is lined up with pin number 1 of your clamp, and that is how you put the EEPROM chip in there. I wish it would focus, but it won't, which is fine. So just make sure you have your chip in the EEPROM clip the way it's supposed to be, and then the next part is going to be on the computer. So you will hook this CarProg system up to the computer, and then I will go through the installation process of the CarProg software, as well as reading the chip and going ahead and flashing a new chip, or reading the original chip and then flashing the new chip.
All right, now that we are on the computer, what you'll want to do is open up your favorite web browser, whether that be Chrome, Firefox, Edge, whatever it might be, and you're going to want to go to gtindustries.net. This is going to be the new project folder or project website that we're going to be using for all future projects from this point forward, and you should be greeted with a page similar to this. You can scroll down to the downloads repository, which is a repository of download links that we've gathered from other sources, and you can get all of our downloadable files and applications and stuff through there. You can also get to all the projects themselves and the project pages through the project link, and you can also get to the YouTube channel. This will exit the website and take you to our YouTube channel if you're coming from another platform of some kind. You can also access all of these through the built-in menu bar over here. You can go to the projects directory, the download repository, or the YouTube channel, and you can get to those through there as well. So what we're going to do for this video is we're going to go over here to the projects directory. We're going to go ahead and click on that. It's going to open up in the same window, and you can see we have our Imobilizer delete project for the Volkswagen already in here. It's going to provide you with a short description of what we're doing and a cute little AI generated image over here. You can go ahead and click open project page, which will open a new window. Again, you'll be greeted with the description of what we're doing, that same AI generated image, and steps or written instructions for what it is that we're doing. You'll also be greeted with the video link here, and basically this is just going to be the video that you're currently watching if you're watching this on YouTube. But if you're coming from one of our other platforms, then you can absolutely watch this video through the browser, or you can open it in a new window. Below that, we're going to have the tools and links section, which is where we have all the links for the various tools and software and items that we're using in this video. So the first thing here is the CarProg version 10.93. If I open this, it is a Amazon link, and it is already connected or directed to the CarProg device here. Make sure that if you click on that link, you are selecting the right one. There are other options in here, but for this project, we need the CarProg one. You'll notice it also comes with a CD with some software on it, which we'll get to here in a few minutes. The other one that we have listed is an AliExpress link. If you are so inclined to use AliExpress, some people like it, some people don't. I've had mixed feelings on it, but it's worked for some things and other things it's not. So just be careful. We're not endorsing any of these links. We're just giving them to you just in case you want to chance those. So make sure that you select the correct one, though. When you open this link, it's going to default to the 8.21 main unit, which is not the unit you need, unless you have all the adapters, of course, which I don't know why you would have the adapters and not the main unit. But if you do need the main unit, click on that one. Otherwise, click on this second one here, which is the CarProg 8.21 full, and that comes with the main unit, the adapters, and everything. And again, there is a CD in this. Again, we'll get to that in a moment. You can also get to the DigiKey link for the exact chip that we used in our project but I do want to preface that you do need to verify that the numbers on top of your original stock chip match and that it is a 95320 chip. If it's not, simply just search the chip that you're wanting up here in the search bar, or you can also search it on Google and it will most likely get you the right one. But make sure that you are selecting the right chip when you're doing this. Also, there's a hot air rework station link here, which is an Amazon link. This is the hot air rework station we used in this video, and it does come with solder, soldering iron, the base unit, and the heat gun, as well as a solder sucker, some additional solder tips, and some additional heat gun tips as well. So for the value for $55, this is not bad, but you'll want to pick up one of those as well. Now, the final thing you're going to need is the CarProg software here. So you're going to just open this in a new tab if you want to, and this will take you to our download repository. Please make sure you read the disclaimer at the bottom of the page before proceeding. By downloading these files, you agree to that disclaimer, and it basically just says that we aren't responsible for these files. We did not create these files, nor did we, make these file packages of any kind. All we did was provide you the download links to these files here on this page, and you'll see a short or a brief kind of description of what they are. You see we've got the EDC 15 calculator software, which is not for this video. This is for older Volkswagen vehicles. The EDC 16 calculator software, which is for this video. We will be downloading that here in just a moment. And the EDC 17 calculator software, which is for newer Volkswagen vehicles than what we're working on. We will not be covering the EDC 15 or 17 softwares as we don't have a vehicle to test those on, but we wanted to go ahead and provide them here for you just in case. At the bottom here, you'll see ODIS version 5.1.5. This is from a site, I believe it's obd2.com or something like that. I don't remember exactly, but basically I believe this is a cracked version of the ODIS Volkswagen car programming software. Again, these files are not files that we created or not files that we created or made in any way. They are just links to files on other sites. Now we're going to go ahead and go back up here to the EDC 16 calculator software, and we're going to go ahead and download that. When you click the download button, it will do one of two things. It will either do the it'll do the percentage loader that you just saw and then download the file. But if this is your first time downloading files from our site, you will want to copy this password right here. And when you click on that, if it's your first time, it will actually take you to a new page where you need to enter that password. Once you've entered that password and selected I believe it's the download now button or the next button, I don't remember exactly, then it will allow you to download the file. Once you've downloaded that file, come back to this page because, like I said, you do need the EDC 16 calculator software for this video, but you also need the CarProg software and activator. Now, hopefully by the time this video goes live, this part right here, the AND activator, will be removed from this title because it's not actually an activator. This software is not activated at all. It works to an extent, very limited functionality without activation, and the sections of the software that we are going to be using today do not require activation. So you'll also want to go ahead and click on the download for that one as well. Now you'll see this one takes a little bit longer, and basically what it's doing right here is it is downloading that software in the background of your file system. And once that percentage counter completes, you'll see up in the right hand corner up here that the download actually just kind of snaps in. It's already downloaded. It's good to go type thing. But that's how this works. It's just downloading in the background. Again, please make sure that if it's your first time visiting the site, that you do copy this as the password so that on the next page you're able to enter that password and get that file. Otherwise, without that password, you can't. We implemented that to prevent against bots downloading these files because we had several hundred downloads when we first made this site live. So we wanted to kind of prevent that. But you'll see that just completed, and if you give it a second, up in the top right corner there, it just went ahead and downloaded. You'll see I've got the EDC 16 calculator software here and the CarProg software there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and go over to my downloads page here off screen, and I'm going to open those up. Give me just a second. There we go. All right. Now we've got the EDC 16 calculator software. I'm just going to drag that out to my desktop here. And then the CarProg software, I'll go ahead and open that up and drag that out as well. Give it a moment to extract the CarProg software from the folder. And while you're waiting on that, go ahead and take your CarProg device and go ahead and plug it in. I'm going to go ahead and plug mine in now. You'll hear a tone here in just a moment. There we go. Alrighty. And now all you have to do in order to complete the process of reprogramming the chip, assuming that you have the chip in the clamp and connected to the CarProg, and the CarProg is now connected to the computer, all you do is you open up this CarProg folder here, and it is opened off screen for me. Just because of file sensitivity, I don't want you guys seeing the file system that I have on this computer because it is a personal computer because I don't have my recording one set up yet. Inside that file, you'll see a CarProg version 8.21.exe. You'll just go ahead and double click that. I'm going to go ahead and drag this over. If you have your CarProg device plugged in when you first open this, you should see a loader bar across here. It did flash real quick on my other screen before I drug this over to this window, but you'll see that loader bar there. And all we're going to do is we're going to go into the EEPROM system or the EEPROM menu and double click this application here. We're going to let that load, and that brings up the EEPROM reader software. First thing we want to do is, obviously there's no chip selected as you can see up here, so we're going to go to the settings menu right here, and we're going to select our chip. Again, our chip is a 95320 chip, so we're going to select the 95X option here, the main option, which is just saying that it's a 95 chip or a 95 series chip, and then we're going to find in the sub options here the 95320 chip. Now go ahead and check the read verify. Basically what this is going to do is this is going to read the file twice and make sure that what it read is the same as what's on the chip, and make sure the write verify is always checked as well. So go ahead and hit OK on that, and then now you've set everything up, and you'll see instead of no chip selected, it now has the 95320 chip selected up here in the top. What we're going to do is we're going to click this read button, and again you should be reading your stock chip as of right now, so go ahead and read that. You'll hear a click, and then it'll take a second, it'll read once, and then it's going to compare that file to what's actually on the chip and make sure that it read correctly. You'll see it did verify, so now this is the stock chip that you have, or the stock reading from the chip. You'll want to go ahead and click the save button here and save that somewhere. I saved mine in the documents folder, but you'll want to go ahead and click the save button. Once you click the save button, simply minimize or exit out of CarProg. I'm going to go ahead and exit out. And what you're going to do next is you're going to open up the EDC16 calculator folder, which again is opening up off screen for me, and you're going to double click that .exe file. I'm going to go ahead and drag this over here, and you'll see that it, it's kind of grayed out everywhere. I'm going to go ahead and click load, and again that file load window is going to come up off screen, and I'm going to find that file that I just saved, which in my case I saved it as a file name called ECU EEPROM read1 IMMO on, meaning that the immobilizer is still active. So we're going to go ahead and open that file, and the first thing you'll see is IMMO status over here is set to on. All you have to do to change that is hit IMMO off and then click calculate checksum. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to save that file, and when you save it, another window should pop up, a file save window, and you'll just want to save it in the same place as your IMMO on bin, but you'll want to save it as the IMMO off version of that file. So once you have that IMMO off file saved, you can go ahead and click close on here, and that's all you have to do. Now you have a bin file or a EEPROM bin file that has the immobilizer disabled on it. So now you're just going to want to open CarProg again. Give me a second. I'm going to open it off screen and drag it over. All right. And now we're going to go ahead and click on the EEPROM chip reading function again. We're going to double click that to launch it. Give it a moment to launch. And again, there's no chip selected because I did exit out of the program. So I'm going to go back in. I'm going to select my 95X main directory of chips and then the 95320. And again, I'm going to do the read verify. Not that we're actually going to read it, but I'll show you guys what that kind of looks like and how to verify what's in the new file is what's on the chip. So go ahead and click OK on that. And now you want to go ahead and put in your new chip that you got from DigiKey. So make sure you go ahead and put that in. You can pause the video here if you need to and put that new chip into your CarProg reader. Since the original chip is not writable, you have read it, but you will not be able to write that chip. If you attempt to write that chip, it will not work. And then when you go to plug everything back into the car, obviously it's not going to work for you. Ask me how I know that one. So go ahead and plug your new chip into there, into the CarProg reader. And once you have that plugged in, well, you may have to reopen the program, but once you get the new chip put in, go ahead and reopen the program. And what we'll do is we'll load that IMMO off file. So you'll just click on this file window here. Again, it's going to open off screen for me, and navigate and find that IMMO off file that you created with the calculator software. Go ahead and open that file, and then all you have to do, assuming that you have the IMMO off file open and you have the new chip, the programmable chip in your CarProg unit, all you do is you click this little lightning button here. Now you'll see it'll pop up with a start right, and mine will look a little different than yours because I've already written this chip, but you'll click it, it will go ahead and run through the write process. Now my write process, give it a moment to verify here, and it'll chime. There we go. Now, my write process went very quickly in comparison to what yours will be. The first time you write one of these EEPROM chips, it goes through bit by bit and writes it. So you will have to wait a minute or two for it to do it. It will be fairly slow. Once that's done, however, once you've written that chip the first time, from that point forward, anytime you write that chip, it will go ahead and just fly through it like it did what you just saw there. So now that you've clicked the write button, it's gone through the write process the first time and then gone through the write verification process, you'll be left with this screen and a programmed chip. Now what you want to do is make sure you still have the IMMO off file open here, and you can click this question mark button up here with the EEPROM chip. This is basically going to read the current file that you have open against what's actually on the chip. That's also what the verification process does, but it's always a good idea just to make sure. So go ahead and click that again. It will run through it pretty quickly this time since you've already programmed it, and it will verify. So it has verified that that file that you have open here is the exact same file that is actually programmed to the EEPROM chip. Now, the remainder of what you're going to want to do is basically just reverse the process of what we did earlier. Take your chip back to your motherboard, go ahead and put it down in the correct direction, and solder it back in. Once you've got it soldered back in, all you do is just put the cover back on, reinstall the ECU, and fire up the car, and it should work. So if you've done everything correctly and you haven't damaged the ECU in any way or the EEPROM chip or any pins or traces or anything like that, then you should be good to go. This is, we're not going to be covering exactly how to, or the exact process of going through all that, because again, like I said, it's exactly the reverse procedure of what we've already done. So just reverse that procedure, put the chip back on, solder it down, put that cover back on, screw those screws in, take it out to the car, and put it back in the vehicle. Once you're done with all that, your vehicle should be good to go. So hopefully this has been helpful to all of you. If you have questions, comments, leave them in the comment section. You can also email us. We'll put a contact section up on the website for anybody to send us an email. But thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Thanks, guys. See you next time.